Tom, I thought we'd start with the clip we just ran that Jason was talking about on the news, this idea that the Premier today, in announcing, I guess, what's going to happen for education in the budget, decided it was a good idea to take a shot at the service centers that he himself, his education minister, created by suggesting that the condition of our dilapidated schools may be overblown by them because they're looking for more money.
This is François Legault at his absolute worst. He dogmatically said, I'm getting rid of elected school boards. I choose the school boards from now on. And just so there's no confusion, they're not going to be called commission scolaire or school boards. They're going to be service centers. Well, there you go. He gets rid of them. He tries to get rid of the English boards, but they turned out to be constitutionally protected for now, and he hasn't managed to get rid of them. The first thing that we saw after the election was Legault started going on about them again and saying, you know what, we've asked them for certain information and statistics and data, and they say they don't have it and they won't give it to us. So I think I'm going to start taking over these service centers. So this was the first indication. This is going back a few months now. So he's not only he's not satisfied to get rid of school boards and any parental and local control over schools. He wants to get the bureaucrats in Quebec City now to handle every single school in the province of Quebec. Today's news, not at all surprising with that past performance by Legault. You ask the school boards, what's the state of your schools? He doesn't want to be told that the Quebec government has completely failed to live up to its obligation to have our kids go to schools that don't have, let's say mold and mildew not falling apart, where you can actually open the windows during the winter so you're not breathing in pure carbon monoxide. So this is the François Legault that is his own worst enemy. It's not that he's wrong. It's not that his government is allowing Quebec schools to fall apart. No. It's the people who are giving them the news that are wrong. It's a classic case of shooting the messenger, and it's unbelievable. But the past sometimes guarantees the future, and on these things, I rarely see Quebecers rise up and say, hey, buddy, you're the one who created this mess. Start assuming your obligations.
Although, to be fair, the opposition has, in fact, I know QS got up and talked about this, so maybe this does come back to bite him to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing between having Gabriel Dubois or others in the House asking on behalf of an opposition party, but one would have thought that the entire community of people whose kids are in those schools would have said, hey, stop finding excuses for yourself. Stop looking for somebody else to blame. The schools are in a miserable state of disrepair. They're dangerous. They're not healthy for our kids. You know it, and now you want to find somebody to tell you that it's okay because we're telling you that it's not. That's François Legault at his worst.
I was thinking about Bernard Dranville yesterday calling for this inquiry or investigation into sexual aggression in high schools, in particularly in Cowansville. And I was thinking about how whether or not that will be used as an excuse to try and dismantle that school board.
Well, there you go. I mean, he's not wrong, by the way, to say, look, there's obviously some of this really bad stuff that goes on in schools, always has been, but there's still in this day and age, to have some of this swept under the rug, to have more than a few people aware that there are problems. And it's not with one person. It's popping up in several schools so across the province. So there's a history of protecting this sort of information from becoming public because they don't want it to reflect badly. So good on Drainville. I think that he's on the right track by saying, well, look, he wants to have a full investigation into that. But going back to schools that are full of mold and mildew, can we also show a little bit of that outrage, Minister Drainville, to make sure that our kids are in schools that are safe for them, health-wise and otherwise?
So we move from the education file to the housing file. I was talking about this earlier, the fact that Valerie Plante wasted no time, mincing no words either, in going after François Legault for what she said is woefully insufficient funds to deal with the housing aspect here. And then him, Tom, coming back, Legault, and saying, hey, I checked with my finance minister. It turns out the money we made available last year never got spent. So why are you blaming us?
Well, this is the Pierre Poilievre thesis, that a lot of money goes out there for housing across the country, but what he calls gatekeepers, that's just his rhetoric. But there are so many barricades and barriers to actually getting the money spent and the housing built that it really sees the light of day. He's not wrong on that when Poilievre makes that complaint, by the way. That was most of question period today between him and Trudeau. And I have to say, Poilievre gave an excellent accounting of himself. He's sharpening his skills. He's getting much better at this. And Trudeau's looking more and more nervous as he faces off against Poilievre, which I never thought I would see. But with regard to the housing issue itself, let's go through a couple of things right now. Legault is right. Montreal gets the money, they don't know how to build a project. Since when do bureaucrats know how to do anything? Since when can they actually put up a building, much less put up a whole housing project without every single unit costing $1 million, which is what a unit costs when you ask bureaucrats to do the job. We're in a position right now in Montreal where there's a serious lack of affordable housing. So that's not necessarily social housing. Affordable housing means that something that the average family can rent and afford the rent. Well, what did we find out this week as we're going through the horrors of what happened at that Airbnb in Old Montreal? That there are so many illegal Airbnbs that neither Quebec City nor City Hall in Montreal have done anything about, despite the fact that they are completely illegal. We find out that there are probably at least 15,000 housing units that are no longer available for families as affordable housing because owners who have figured out that they're not enforcing the law can get away with renting them out as Airbnbs, make a small fortune. And so why would they bother having it available for families? So before Mayor Plante starts deciding that she knows that the problem is in Quebec City with Legault, she should look herself in the mirror because even though she tried to shovel this off onto Quebec City, she has regulations, she has authority, she has obligations that she's simply not meeting.
I'm thinking about the first victim who's been identified, the woman, Kinimaya, a photographer, 76 years old, had lived in that building
for 30 years.
40 years, actually, they're saying
40?
now. Yeah, and she fought to stay there, Tom. The landlord evidently kept trying to evict her. She fought to stay there because it was affordable for her because she'd been living there for so long. To me, that whole situation sums up so much of what is going wrong with housing in the city. But what I want to draw attention to for a moment is Legault saying something to the effect that it now takes 4 years to build a new house. So what are we talking about bureaucracy again here? It can't possibly take 4 years to build a new house.
Well, no, it doesn't. That's simply false information. But if he's talking about the build, but what he's trying to refer to, it seems to me, is the whole permitting process, the zoning, whether you get your building permit, how long that building permit lasts. Most municipalities, a building permit's only good for a year, and then you've got to have the thing up and ready. There is also a scarcity of some products and lumber and so forth right now in the market, and there's so much work going on outside right now. I mean, if you look at the massive projects that are going on, there's a scarcity of qualified builders as well. But the 4 years is just something he pulled out of thin air. What's more important, though, is there's such strong pressure on the part of people who think about this. They say, well, we don't want urban sprawl anymore. We don't want houses, but people want houses. Mm-hmm. They want to have a place to raise their kids, and they want a place, they don't all, a lot of people are very happy to live in the Plateau Montréal, and good on them. But a lot of people say, no, I'd like to live in the burbs. I'd like to have a house. I'd like to have an arena close by. I'd like to have a park. That's the lifestyle that I want. And, of course, none of that's getting built right now because very few municipalities are allowed to move on, even in the outlying areas where most of that development has taken place over the past few decades.
Tom, just before we wrap up, what happened with the Donald Trump situation today? They put off things? They postponed the hearing today?
I have a feeling that there is some information that the prosecutors have, the district attorney, that makes them question the solidity of their case. And between you and me, I mean, if you had your druthers, would you rather see Donald Trump given a lovely matching pair of stainless steel bracelets for sleeping with Stormy Daniels, or because he had tried to overturn the constitutional order of the United States and kill people in Congress, including police officers, by inciting that riot? I know which one I find more important, but somehow there's people who've got this fixation that they're going to go after Trump for this or that and the other thing. The Stormy Daniels thing boils down to a question of an illegal campaign expense. Really? After everything this guy did, that's going to become the prosecution of Donald Trump. Trump will win that one, and everybody will look stupid. And the next time they go after him for something real, he'll get to say, it's another witch hunt, more fake news, and he'll slip away like he always does.
So you're thinking cooler heads are prevailing here? Is that the idea?
Well, I think that it's part of it. I mean, if it's going to be something that's not solid and it's going to get taken apart by the best lawyers in New York representing Donald Trump, why go with the chump change? Go for the real thing. Go for the jackpot, which is seditious conspiracy to overturn the U.S. government and make sure the guy's never allowed to run again. That's the
really?
gold standard.
Is that all, Tom? Seditious conspiracy? That's enough? I'm sorry, I'm kidding.
I think that if he gets accused of that even the average American would have trouble voting for him.
Tom Mulcair back tomorrow morning with Andrew Carter at about 7:40. Thank you, Tom.